Hey yo, it's the LifeShot podcast. Change your world and change the world. Carmen O. James.
Yes.
I see your website says Carmen O. James.
That's
so you have to tell us what that middle name is in a minute.
Oh dear.
Welcome to the LifeShot podcast. How are you doing?
I'm very well, thank you. And thank you so much for inviting me. It's awesome to be here.
Well, it's convenient because you're in the country.
Yes.
And normally you live in
Durban, South Africa.
South Africa, and you're here in England. What's your reason for the visit?
Okay, so Carmen's friends are getting married, which is the primary reason why we came. But then I was also offered a little opportunity to do a little talk at one of the churches. A family friend of ours invited me as well. So I got to do that while I'm here, and Carmen also did a show. So we've been really busy.
So it was really awesome for me to find out that
Yeah.
you actually like the same things that I like.
Yeah.
And I'm like, awesome.
Yay.
I want to ask you just straight off the bat, what is the main message of the CARMEN JAMES brand?
Yeah, good question.
Yeah.
So I started this trying to formulate a personal brand around the things that I value. And one of the things I think that encapsulates everything that I stand for, and one of the things that I'm really passionate about, is self-love. And so for me, everything that I want to do through the brand is to help people learn to love themselves. I really, really, truly believe that once we can get that done, and once everybody's on board with that, we'll be better people for it. We'll be in relationships. We'll rock up in relationships even better as better human beings. And I think the way we do everything going on from there is going to be way better. I think that if you have a good relationship with yourself, you have a good relationship with other people, and the world basically is built on relationships.
Where's that borderline where it goes into narcissism? You know, because some people say, "Well, that might be a bit selfish." Because if I look after myself a lot, I may neglect my family.
Yeah.
I mean, how do you talk to people about that balance?
Yeah. So often, this is the misconception about self-love, is that it's very selfish, and that it's very inward pointing and inward focus, kind of like navel gazing, I guess. But the way I see it, and I think the way we need to be seeing it, is first and foremost looking at what our opinion of, or our idea of love is in the first place. And I think the problem is that we have a very selfish opinion of love.
Okay.
You know, we love people because of what we can get out of them. You know, I love you because you give me things, or you make me feel happy and comfortable. And, you know, it's kind of like this relationship where you're getting something out of the relationship all the time, as opposed to it being an unconditional love where it's open and it's not tied down to what I can get out of it. It's an expression of who you are. And so narcissism is very different to self-love, because narcissistic people actually have very low self-love. They actually have low self-esteem, and they need other people to validate and improve, their opinion of themselves.
And they might put others down
in the process. Exactly. So they actually build themselves on the downfall of other people. They manipulate. They put people down. They do all kinds of things that really disadvantage other people, as opposed to being self-loving, which is, I believe, a way of taking care of yourself. And I truly believe that, it's like when you go in a plane, right? And they say, oh, if we lose cabin pressure, put your oxygen mask on before you help other people. I truly believe if you take care of yourself, and if you're in good relationship with yourself, and if you know and accept and love yourself, then the way you show up in your relationships, and the way you interact with other people, and from the way you do your job to the way you raise your children, for example, I think that spills over from a place of genuinely, unconditionally loving yourself.
So I read about, I read on your website that you're into integrative medicine.
Yeah.
And I've never heard that term before. What is that?
Okay, so I've been practicing general regular medicine for almost 11 years now. And I became incredibly disillusioned with the model. I really truly felt like when it comes to chronic disease, we weren't doing enough. all we were basically doing, or all you have time for in a consult. I mean, you pretty much have 15 minutes to see a patient, right? And all you can do in that time
fix symptoms,
is
maybe?
fix the symptoms, give them some medication, barely scratch the surface with some of the lifestyle things that they can do, and then send them out on their way. They come back 6 months later for a repeat prescription. That's basically the model. And really, we're tackling the symptoms, we're not tackling the root cause. So the difference between traditional Western medicine and integrative medicine is that in the integrative approach, we're more holistic. So we look at every component of the person's life, from their spirituality to their career, to their relationships, to their level of physical activity, to the food that they're eating, what's actually going on, their previous trauma, things that if we were to break it apart like that and focus a little bit more on each individual piece of the puzzle, you can actually achieve healing in a more well-rounded and a more holistic way. So integrative medicine really focuses on things like, what's the patient's story? What are the stories that they're telling themselves? And what's actually happened in that patient's life to lead them to the disease process that they find themselves in.
But the chronic disease is sometimes a build-up over time. You don't necessarily know that you're doing bad to yourself, but it eventually manifests itself in your body saying, hey, wake up.
Yeah, exactly. And I mean, chronic, as the name suggests, right? It's something that actually builds up over a period of time. And that's the thing, is like when you're sitting in a doctor's office and I test your blood sugar and I tell you, hey, Clint, you have diabetes. At that point, the wheels have fallen off. And this is now a life-changing diagnosis that I've just given you. And my next step is to tell you, here's the medication that you're going to take. We're not even scratching the surface with regards to, well, how did Clint actually get into this situation? What is his lifestyle? What is his family situation like? What are the stresses that he faces? Is Clint sleeping? Is he taking care of himself? What's his relationship with food? And all these things are vital. I mean, if you think about health, we often think that health is the absence of disease, right? So you're not sick, so you're healthy. And then until that moment,
until you get sick,
you get the diagnosis, and then you're like, oh, whoa.
I didn't realize.
I didn't realize what was... All the while, things are building one on top of the other. And at the end of the day, we're hoping to just give a magic pill and make it all go away.
So when I spoke to you on Saturday night, this was actually what I was alluding to, because I thought I might save it for the podcast.
Yeah.
when I heard that you had walked away from the usual GP practice. So it's interesting to hear you say that, and I thought that might have been what it is. Do you think that doctors are not... I think all the doctors have obviously got a good heart and they want to help people.
Yes.
But they're just stuck in that system.
Yes.
What should we do?
So the system is actually designed, unfortunately, this is the big problem, is that the current system is based on the pharmaceutical model. And the pharmaceutical model holds the keys to the kingdom. So they call the shots.
Money.
That's all about the money at this stage. It's really not the doctor's fault. As you say, doctors they go into medicine with the intention of helping people. You don't often get people going into medicine which is, oh yeah, I'm just going to go and make money. No, usually the intention behind it is, okay, I'm going to go do my bit to help people. But you get into this model and the whole structure is based on pharmaceutical drugs. And the pharmaceutical industry runs everything from our food to our advertising to our healthcare. So ultimately, when you're in a system that's based on pharmaceutical drugs, it's very difficult to kind of break out and be like, no, I'm not going to prescribe these drugs. It's not a popular position to hold. And it's actually, look, the tide is changing, slower in South Africa than it is in the rest of the world, but it's still very much, I once spoke to a doctor who said to me that medicine or being a doctor is not just a profession, it's an identity. And so people, when immediately you walk into a room, you tell them, I'm a doctor, the mood changes. People kind of just like look at you in this light. And a lot of doctors have built their identity on what they do. And to come in now and tell them that, hey, there's maybe something a little bit broken with your model, you kind of stepping on the toes of giants in the field, and it's like, whoa, you know, what is this new thing, that new age kind of thing that you're coming in with now that we don't really have much science about? And that's a lot of the argument, is that,
and control over, I suppose.
Yeah, exactly. So it's I mean, I basically got to a point where I couldn't, with a clear conscience, continue to do something that I believed was going against what my value system is based in.
And this reminds me of a talk I listened to with Greg Braden. And I read one of his books called The Science of Self-Empowerment. And in there he speaks about the scientific evidence that suggests that humans, as we know them in our current form, suddenly appeared 200,000 years ago on the Earth, and there is no link between the Neanderthals and humans. Now, to some people, they're like, what are you talking about? Evolution is a fact. But actually, he speaks about it and says, no, it's not. And that challenges all those people who have built their careers based on this evolutionary theory that Charles Darwin put forth. And I suppose it's similar in medicine. Yes. So it's like, well, this is what we used to, this is what all the books say.
We know.
Now, how do we break out of that mold, you know?
Yeah. And I guess the problem or the issue here is that, you know, traditionally in medicine, I remember when I was in medical school, things like homeopathy and naturopathy and acupuncture and all those things were kind of like
Eastern and weird, like, religious, maybe.
You guys are playing games here. Like, I remember being once on a ward round, and the consultant was reviewing the chart of a patient, and he was querying the antibiotic dose that the doctor had prescribed. And he said, "Are you prescribing homeopathic doses of this antibiotic?" And so we've been kind of brainwashed to know that the way we do things is the right way, and it's the only way. And everything else is kind of like, where's your science? You know, where's your proof? Where are your randomized controlled placebo studies? And so ultimately in medicine, we've had this kind of inflated ego. And now what's happening is that science is actually catching up. You know, there's studies now to prove the benefits of meditation, and you know, mind-body healing, energy healing, that kind of stuff is actually now starting to come through with scientific studies that are showing, hey, look, and case studies. I mean, okay, things like spontaneous remission, for example.
Spontaneous remission?
Yeah. So there's a whole body of evidence of people who've come forth saying, hey, I was diagnosed with this such and such condition, and now I don't have it anymore. So, and more people are coming out with all these radical stories of how they were
like a miracle
healing, right? So then where do you put that? And you go and tell a doctor, oh,
it's gone now.
It's gone now,
like,
and they're like, nah, there was something wrong with your results, or the lab got the test wrong, or maybe we mixed up your radiology results, and you know you didn't really have that tumor to begin with. So we're still quite closed-minded, and we're still kind of, you know, egotistical, and this is our territory and this is ours and you can't have it. And I really think that the way we should be moving forward, and I think it is starting, is that we need to be much more open-minded. And I think, I'm not saying that there's no place for traditional Western medicine, because if I get into a car accident and I break my leg, I want an orthopedic surgeon.
Of course.
You know? Yeah. But if I've got a chronic medical disease,
that's different.
Then it's different. And majority of the stuff that walks into a GP's office is chronic disease. And the model is broken. We're just not serving patients properly.
I got into a little bit of Wim Hof. I don't know if you've ever seen Wim Hof. So he put himself up for science. He's called the Iceman.
Oh yeah?
Yeah, so he swims in under ice sheets and he says that if you do meditation, what he calls concentration, breathing, and then cold showers or ice baths. Did I mention them all? Yeah. So there's the 3 pillars to the Wim Hof method, and he reckons you'll never get sick again. Wow. But so it's you know, you can't. It's a lot to say you won't get sick if you do this. Yeah. But because you think, and I've been doing it for a while. I started in January doing the Wim Hof method, and I must say I'm feeling pretty healthy. But you don't always see the immediate benefits of doing things that are... Because if you just say, give me a pill, it works straight away.
Yeah.
Whereas if I have to do now concentration, meditation, ice baths, and whatever type of integrative medicine you're talking about, it takes a while, doesn't it?
Yes.
So how do you consult people that say, listen, just give it a while, maybe you'll see some benefits? Are there, do they see them immediately after 2 months, 3 months?
Yeah.
What do you think it is?
So this is the problem. We live in a society of immediate results, right? We want the quick fix. You have a question, you go on Google and you get the answer. We don't really want to do the hard work that is necessary to get the results that we're looking for. And pills have been proven and shown that they will give you results almost instantaneously. So my answer to that is twofold. The first part of that is that, yes, the pill may help to alleviate your symptoms. You're going to feel better, your pain's going to go away, your sugar's going to come under control, blood pressure numbers will come down. But if you haven't dealt with the underlying cause of your symptoms, it's only a matter of time before your body continues to destroy itself, essentially. So in other words, if you're going to start taking the pills and not do anything to change your lifestyle, then literally you can expect that for the rest of your life, you're going to continue to add more diagnoses onto your list of chronic diseases. It was not uncommon for me to see patients coming in with 3-4 chronic diseases clustering together and having at least, I'd say, between 7 and 10 prescription medications that they took every single day.
Wow.
Right? So ultimately, that's the way it's going to work. Today you have hypertension, a couple months or a couple years, maybe you're going to have diabetes, and then after that you're going to have cholesterol, then your heart's going to be the problem, etc. So you basically, if you continue on that continuum, it's pretty much guaranteed. Yeah. As opposed to if you look at it the other way, right, where you do the work necessary to change your lifestyle. The point is not adding years to your life, it's adding life to your years. Right? Okay. Because I don't want to be a 90-year-old person who's shriveled up and can't function and is, relying on 10 medications to keep me alive.
You want to be fit and healthy.
That's not life, right? You want to be able to be vital. You want to be able to have energy. You don't want to be tied down and thinking, I can't go here, I can't do there because I need to inject myself with insulin every few hours, etc. So doing the lifestyle work, it's harder. That's the problem. Yeah. People don't want to do the hard work.
It takes work, doesn't it?
However, if you look at the, projection out, going that route, ultimately, the benefits far outweigh that hard work that you need to do. Because in the beginning, it's difficult, right? You're trying to change. Anytime you're changing, it's hard, it's uncomfortable. But once you get into a lifestyle, and once you start eating healthy and you start looking after your body and you start doing all these things, meditating, practicing all kinds of reflection and that type of thing, it becomes natural to you.
Yeah, it becomes almost a routine. So I want to talk to you about morning routines, which I love. But before we do that, I was thinking gratefulness and reflection. So also reading a few of your blogs on your website and a few of your about pages. Yeah. And I've also been not taught, but through watching all the videos I'm watching on YouTube and such, Dr. Joe Dispenza, and that talking about be thankful, and be grateful about things. So what is your stance on being grateful and reflection and all that?
Yeah. So what I've found is that gratitude is the ultimate mood stabilizer. You can't be disappointed and be grateful, or angry and be grateful, or frustrated and be grateful. And so I feel like and it speaks to our emotional intelligence, I guess. When you're experiencing something that's putting you in a very negative headspace, one of the easiest things to pull you out is to reflect on the things that you can be grateful for. And so it has an almost immediate effect on changing your state. Because yes, things could be worse, and maybe things are bad at the moment. But ultimately, if you have things that you can focus on and say, wow, I actually woke up this morning and I can breathe on my own. There's other people who are dependent on oxygen, for example. Or I have the use of all my limbs. There are people who...
Small things to be thankful for.
Yeah. And for me, gratitude is something that, it helps to lift your mood. It improves your state of mind, your mental state, etc. But it also helps you to kind of put things into perspective. Oftentimes we're bombarded with negativity, right? People on social media, for example, this compare and despair cycle that keeps happening, right? You look at people on social media, oh my gosh, this person has a perfect life. You're comparing your whole life to a snapshot of a person's life, and you think, oh, I wish I had that. But then we forget to focus on what we actually do have. And there ultimately are a whole bunch of people, not to say that you're putting yourself on a pedestal and saying, oh, I'm better than these people because I have all these things. But really, it helps you to put your whole your life into perspective if you're able to focus on the good.
So, do people don't always make the connection between gratefulness and health? So, how does gratefulness actually help our health?
So, gratitude has been shown to increase your mood and elevate your mood, right? Which ultimately helps you to do things like relax, and also to have better sleep. People have been, I think Oprah started this thing of, keep a gratitude journal, right? And list, before you go to bed, like 5 things that you're grateful for. Oftentimes I used to have patients who would suffer from insomnia. Right? It was actually an increasing thing that I was starting to see. Lots and lots of people just coming in like, I need medication to help me to sleep at night. And you'll find that a lot of those people, if you tease it out of them, the reason why they're unable to sleep is because they've got their thoughts spinning around in their head. So they're ruminating, right? So they're constantly thinking of the same thing over and over and over again. What if this happens? What, I haven't done that. I'm stressed about this, blah, blah, blah. And because the mind is in that active state of running over things over and over again, what ends up happening is that the mind can't shut off. And part of that, write 5 things down that you're grateful for, is a way of reflecting and a way of actually putting your thoughts out onto paper so that you can see them. But that helps you to stop that cycle in your mind that keeps going and is keeping you awake. So I found that, journaling, I'm a big fan of journaling. Journaling of any kind.
So what do you journal? I mean, what type of things do you journal in?
Yeah, so gratitude journaling is really awesome. Listing the things that you're grateful for. I really love that. But then also things like, there's a practice that I read about called morning pages. I don't know if you've ever heard about it, but basically I think it's in I don't want to say the wrong place, the wrong resource where I got it from, but basically immediately when you wake up, take a journal and you write 3 pages, whatever's going on in your mind. Wow. Whether it's writing about what you dreamt about the night before, or what you've been thinking about, or how you're feeling, what's going on in your life. Something powerful about reflecting on your life and putting it out onto the page and putting it out onto paper, especially in that early stage of waking, when the mind is kind of still floating between the conscious mind and the unconscious mind, has tremendous potential to open you up to the things that you maybe didn't even realize were going on or that you were processing in your mind. I started doing that practice of morning pages as part of my morning routine, and just literally just writing 3 pages of what. And you would think like, what am I going to write about? But it's amazing how just in that reflection, you're able to process. I feel like what happens is that we get stuck. Our minds kind of just get into this loop and you keep thinking about the same thing over and over again. But once you see it on the page, you're able to say, hang on, this is actually what I'm thinking about. What am I going to do about this? Or how do I feel? This is how I truly feel about that. And something about that, being in that, still coming out of that sleep phase, an unconscious way of tapping into like, okay, what's really going on in my mind. So I enjoy that. And then I also enjoy just trying to figure myself out, right? It's like this, I mean, if you're trying, for example, you dating somebody or you just getting to know somebody, you want to spend all this time with them. You want to figure out, who's this person? What do they like doing? What makes them tick? What are their aspirations, their goals, their dreams in life? You spend a lot of time focused on getting to know the person better so that you can create a connection with them. So part of getting to know ourselves is reflecting and trying to answer those questions for ourselves. right? That's how you get to know yourself. Exactly. It's a fantastic opportunity to get to know yourself better. So reflecting on, okay, what are my goals? What do I want to do today? How am I feeling? You know, what are the things that I enjoy doing? Let me do more of that. And just getting into that relationship with yourself. Journaling is a fantastic way to take care of yourself. And
all right, so in the morning you wake up, you do your journaling.
Yeah.
What else do you do in the morning that's part of your routine?
Okay, so I do meditation. I use an app called One Giant Mind, literally just for the timer. And I do, the way I practice meditation is a little bit, it varies from time to time. Sometimes it's just focusing on a word, and usually the word is love. Other times it's like a process of visualization. What do I want to see in my future? Trying to bring, you know, the things that I want to see happening into the present moment.
So you're projecting your future self and saying, that's what
I want to be. That's where I want to go. That's how I see myself in the future. So meditation is, I meditate about 15 minutes in the morning after I've journaled. And then another thing that I do is my devotions. So I read the Bible, and I do like a daily devotional plan. You know, sometimes I get it on an application. Other times I have just a little book that I go through. And then I also do some exercise. Robin Sharma, the monk who sold his Ferrari, author, he speaks about doing 20 minutes of exercise first thing when you wake up, 20 minutes of reflection, and then 20 minutes of reading. And then another guy that wrote a book called The Miracle Morning speaks about something called Life Savers, where SAVERS is an acronym for S, silence. So that would be meditation, A for affirmations, V for visualization, E, what does E stand for? Exercise. R for, I want to say reflection, but that's reading.
Reading, okay.
Yeah, reading, and then S for scribing. So basically that combination of reflecting, meditating, calming the mind, and then exercising. I usually do some yoga in the morning. I'm not a big exercise person, unfortunately. No. Yeah, so... Yeah, so
I was impressed because I was showing you my skills last night. You know, like check me out. I'm like, I'm 40 and I can still do this. And then CARMEN JAMES like
did a back bend. Yeah, my old gymnastics days, I suppose, helped me. Which is why I like yoga. Okay. I really feel like it helps me to kind of connect again with my body, and some of the stretches and the things that I used to be able to do when I was a gymnast. It kind of feels similar to that. So I really enjoy doing yoga in the morning as well. So, and that's basically what my routine is like.
But do you travel a lot?
I used to travel. So I used to work on the ships, right? So I used to travel while I was working then. And then since coming back from the ships, I've tried my best to make sure that I do a bit of traveling every year. So yeah, I mean, I'd say I don't travel as much as I'd like to, but I'm hoping that that's gonna
because the reason I asked is because traveling kind of messes up your routine.
Yes.
But not just traveling, but like, because I work in London sometimes, and then I've got to be up earlier, and I'm like, okay, I won't do my routine this morning, so it kind of like messes up a little bit.
Yeah.
I suppose we just got to be disciplined in waking up earlier.
That's it. And Robin Sharma speaks about the 5 a.m. club. So I'm not a morning person at all. I've never been. I don't like waking up in the morning. But one of the things that I needed to do while I was still working and trying to figure out my life and figure out where I wanted to go, and then I started studying health coaching. So I also had like work that I needed to get through, and I found that by the time I came back home from a day's work, I couldn't study. I was just completely tired, and there was just nothing that was going to go into my brain. So I started waking up at 5 o'clock in the morning to do this morning routine and to study and that kind of thing. And so, yes, and I think that the momentum is important. Because if you're going to create a habit, they say it takes 66 days to form a habit, right? Before it used to be like 21 days.
Yeah, like the number keeps changing.
Yeah, the number's changing, but I think it's like the English journal that came out with the 66 number, right? So 66 days to form a habit. So even if, say, for example, you are traveling, I do find it difficult when I'm traveling as well to stick to a routine. But I think even if it is like just for 5 minutes, just to keep the momentum going.
Just so
even if
it,
so even if you are traveling and you like maybe wake up 5-10 minutes earlier, just do a little bit of meditation and maybe a little bit of yoga, just to keep the momentum going, I think is important.
So by the way, thanks for introducing me to the word Ikigai.
Yeah, Ikigai. Yeah.
And that's Japanese for
reason
for being.
That's it.
You said you found you had an experience.
Yeah, so I first came across the word Ikigai when I was working on the ships. I was reading this book called The Happiness Equation, and they were speaking about all, different parts of the world and what is happiness to different people. And they mentioned the word Ikigai. So it kind of was like in my brain somewhere. And then when I came back from the ships and I was doing this journey of self-discovery and watching all these things and people like Jay Shetty, the monk, and ex-monk rather, speaking about Ikigai and that kind of thing. And so reason for being, very important, because they've also done studies on the blue zones, and some of the Japanese people live in the blue zones. They live like, they're centurions, right? So they live into like hundreds, over 100 years. And one of the things that they, aside from their diet, the fact that they're still active, etc., is that they have a reason for being, or purpose, basically. It can be translated into that. Mm-hmm. And the way Jay Shetty, broke it down is what are you good at, right? What do you enjoy doing? What does the world need? And then what can you get paid for doing? Mm. And kind of where those four circles intersect would be your purpose, or your Ikigai, your reason for being. Mm. And so I was randomly just, doing a search on the internet, came across this website called lavender.com, downloaded this worksheet and literally filled out all the circles and then put it away. Yeah. And I just didn't think about it again. I was just like, okay, this is just one of the things I'm doing in my journey of self-discovery. I'm not really going to pay much attention to it. Fast forward a year later, I look at this thing and I'm now studying health coaching, and I'm trying to, eat better and trying to be like a more conscious person. And some of the stuff that I wrote down there, I was like, wow, it's almost manifested, I could say. A year later, I could definitely see parts of it taking shape. And so, again, it comes down to self-reflection, right? Because we don't often ask ourselves those questions. What am I good at? And what do I think my purpose is in this life?
Some people might feel like they're just not good at anything because they don't have self-esteem, right?
Yeah, and they don't value themselves. Yeah. And really, part of that is that, we believe the lies that other people tell us and the things that we've been told as children, for example.
Or even we just matter and there's nothing, we're meaningless.
That's it.
Yeah.
So what's the point?
Rubbish,
yeah, exactly. Yeah. And so part of that is coming really back to trying to figure out, okay, I'm here and the time's going to pass anyway. What am I going to do with that time? And so, I suppose that's essentially, what came of the Ikigai thing for me. But I think it is important for us to ask ourselves those questions because, look, ultimately you can choose to live a life that essentially, whatever, YOLO, doesn't matter what I do with this life. But I feel like, well, if you have the opportunity to make a difference and to do awesome things, why wouldn't you choose to do that?
Yeah, some people are happy just to wake up, do the 9 to 5, come home and, they don't need... It's not for everyone what we're talking about, I suppose. Yeah. I think it is for everyone to be healthy and to love themselves, but I think some people don't want to necessarily change the world, which is fair enough.
And I don't think it's everybody's place to change the world. Yeah. I think there is place for people who are doing those tasks that need to be done and serving in their own way. But I definitely feel like there's a way of showing up to a 9 to 5 that fulfills you, and another way of showing up that brings you a lot of anger and a lot of dissatisfaction and disillusionment that causes you to be sick, So I feel like it doesn't matter what your ultimate purpose. And people say, find your purpose. Like it's this huge thing that everybody's supposed to do.
And they might be stressed about finding their purpose.
Correct.
Right? Yeah.
And really, I think that's missing the point because we each have a role to play. And whether that means you're a stay-at-home mom taking care of your children, that's huge. It's one of the biggest jobs that anyone, but we don't view it like that because it doesn't have all the status and everything else that comes with it. And so it comes down to, okay, what's my opinion of success? What do I actually think success is? And then showing up as the best version of myself to do the role that I'm called to.
So let's talk about your interest in women's wellness, because I think that's one of your aims, or one of the branches that you go down. Why women in particular?
Okay. Firstly, being a woman, I think I can relate a lot to some of the issues that women go through. And then I also felt like I needed to... Okay, so health coaching and wellness coaching is kind of a broad thing, to tackle. And I felt like I needed to zone in on a particular group of people. So part of the reason was because of that. But also I feel strongly that women are, for the most part, and it may be a controversial statement to make, but for the most part, the traditional role, I hope I don't step on people's toes by saying this, but it has been to be nurturing and to care for the home, for the family, for the children. And one of the things that I care a lot about is how we are growing up our children, and in particular how we're teaching our children to love themselves and how to eat. I feel like the sitting in that GP practice and seeing so many children come in overweight, to me it was heartbreaking, because I felt like we're missing the opportunity here. And this is really the grassroots level where the foundation is being laid.
You can make a lot of impact by doing that right.
It's incredible how much you can get done by starting off on a good foundation and a good footing. And a lot of the parents would come into me and they this is a sensitive topic to discuss with parents, right? Because people generally tend to get defensive about, it's my children, I'll do what I feel is the right thing to do.
Telling me I'm a bad parent or something.
Correct. But I would raise things like the junk food, etc., and they'd say, well, my child doesn't eat vegetables. They only eat this type of takeaway food. Then the question becomes, okay, but where did the child learn to eat that? Because a child cannot go to a fast food chain and buy the food for themselves, not in a judgmental way, but I feel like we need to start taking more responsibility for that at a younger age, because it truly does lay down the foundation.
And mothers are vital, and they're so important because they spend most time with the kids.
And they're responsible most times for the meals that are prepared in the home. And I feel like if you educate, I think there was a study or something like that said, if you educate a woman, you educate the village, because they take that education and they don't keep it to themselves, but it gets passed on to children, to their families, to their friends. Women love speaking about, I'm trying this new thing and blah, 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 and
so they're evangelists for a new way of doing things.
Correct. The word kind of spreads quite rapidly with women. And so that's, I guess, the reason why my focus was primarily on women as a target audience.
So, Carmen, if people want to get to know you more, to find out about what you do and get in touch, where do they go?
Okay, so I've got a website, CARMENJAMES.com. My middle name is Odette, so that's why the O is there. And then I've got another website called Dare2, with a numeric 2, loveyourself.com. And then on Instagram, I'm at dr.carmenjames. And
so, we're not here to promote products or anything, but I do want to know, where are you working just in one place, as in South Africa? You see people face to face, or what is this thing this personal brand that you're building? Is it going to be like international and digital and?
I hope so. Gee whiz, I really hope so. Well, now when I get home after this trip, it's really going to be doing the hard work, because the vision is to have group sessions, workshops, seminars, and retreats for people to just learn about health and wellness. And so I'm hoping that will also translate into online courses and books, and hopefully that will be available internationally. That's my dream.
So Dr. CARMEN JAMES, his next book is...
Yeah, I do have a book actually coming out, but I'm not quite settled on the title yet, but I'm in the process of writing it. Yeah, it's pretty much written. I'm editing it at the moment.
Oh, and can you tell us what it's about, or you don't want to
No, I mean, it's about self-esteem. Yeah. It's about loving yourself. It's about not comparing yourself to others, and just literally living the best version of yourself without feeling like you are less than, feeling like you're good enough, basically. So yeah.
And people from different backgrounds will relate to this topic. It's not
Absolutely.
It's not a religious.
No, thing. It's not religious. It's got a little anecdotes about my life, which do have a religious slant, but it's not a religious book at all. But I definitely feel that it's a book, and I would say it's more for women. I guess women would relate a little bit more to some of the things I discuss, but it's not strictly for women. Yeah.
Brilliant. Yeah. Carmen, it's been great having you on the LifeShot.
Thank you so much for having me.
All right.
I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Ciao.
Bye.